There's only 40 million millionaires in the world. Not every millionaire can even have an entire Bitcoin. Now that's a crazy concept to think that the ultra rich can't even have one.
Yeah. I believe that in a couple of years, it's going to be like, look, I have a full Bitcoin and you don't.
I think so as well. And I think you might even get to the point where that's going to be like the ultra rich, but you're going to have the people that I have a tenth of a Bitcoin, and that is going to be something to brag about. I mean, it's
Hey
a wild...
everyone, my name's Nolan. My students call me Professor G, and it is my passion helping young people understand personal finance and the ins and outs of starting a business. Let's do this. What's up, guys? This is Nolan here, or Professor G. I got Brian Demint here with me. So Brian is a serial entrepreneur, has a couple different businesses. He's also been in the cryptocurrency world for about almost 10 years now, and he was actually the person that introduced me to cryptocurrency back in the day. Brian, thanks for coming on, dude.
All right, man.
As far as cryptocurrency is concerned, if a beginner were to come to you and just say, hey man, what kind of is cryptocurrency and why should I even get involved in it? Do so.
I mean, that's a great question. I think the most exciting side of it is the financial portion of it. That's actually probably the least important function of cryptocurrency. So when you're talking to somebody and you're trying to get them excited about it for the first time ever, I mean, perhaps talking about the value of it is exciting and fun, but it also kind of is detrimental to the conversation also too. So for you, if you're trying to learn about it, I would say to try to ignore the financial portion of it. And that is a very real issue with it. So don't ignore it entirely. But at first, I would try to push that back and learn about the technology. I would say that if you're going to resources to learn about it, there's going to be channels and things like that are going to tell you just about price predictions. So if you see a video that it's only ever price predictions or a channel or something like that, that's not going to be your resource for learning more about it. It's going to be financial channels like this that talk about general concepts of economics and entrepreneurship. That's where the heart of cryptocurrency lies, is in micro and macroeconomics. And what I would say is so important about Bitcoin in particular is that it's the world's first ever open financial system. We've never had an open financial system that was equal access for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or a minority or white or Christian or Muslim. It doesn't matter what your background is or who you are. You have equal access to this financial system. Maybe right now we have a very open and fair system, what we think in terms of finances, but that system just fundamentally is changing. And so if you want to be able to have that and maintain that financial freedom, I think Bitcoin is going to be one of the few options to maintain that financial freedom. And I would even go beyond to say that in a social context like we're in right now, and bringing it back to the United States, we have people that are on both sides of the ideological spectrum. I know we've talked about this, that there's people that say they're the conservative free market capitalists. And ultimately the free market capitalists wants a level playing field. It's based on a meritocracy, and they say that we want everybody in the system to have liberty and fairness to transact wherever they want to transact and with whomever they want to transact. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the very far end of the spectrum, you'd have communism.
Right.
And in communism, they idealistically want equality amongst all the people, right? They want everybody to have the same thing, and that's this harmonious type of thing. And free market capitalists want this harmonious type of market. Now, what's the problem? In free market capitalism, capital goes to the top, and that's part of the system. That's probably okay. I'd say as entrepreneurs, we're okay with capital being based on merit. But the problem is you can have corruptions in systems, and unfortunately, we as human beings are flawed individuals. And so I would say that's one of the areas where I'd say the Bible is one of the things that speaks a lot of truth to this type of issue.
Yeah.
And in the fact that it doesn't matter what worldly system you have, human corruption is going to come in. And so even in capitalism, you have a concentration of power that makes that free market not so free anymore. And it gives on-ramps and off-ramps for some people and not others. And in communism, you see the proletariat, which is the working class people, but then you see the elites that get to be the ones to give out resources to the working class people. And so there's always, in both systems on the far extremes, there's a concentration of power, or you could call it a centralization of power.
Yeah.
And so Bitcoin and decentralized networks, they're the antithesis of centralized power. So if somebody wants absolute equality in communism, Bitcoin should be pretty alluring to them. If somebody wants absolute free markets and a meritocracy and fairness, Bitcoin should be pretty alluring to them.
That's
and
huge.
so to me, this is one of those things where it has the ability to bring unity across a people that ultimately want the same goal, but they're going about it with different ideologies.
At the top of both pictures that you just showed, there's people, right? And so there's people, and they're just a very, very elite group of people. And so they're on top, and they're the ones that get to make the rules. They're the ones that get to say, okay, yeah, it's going to be fair for everyone. Obviously, for them, they're going to make themselves a little bit more fair, right?
Right.
Like
A little more
you know,
fair.
like, oh, we'll take a little bit because we're in charge, and that's the problem. It's like you'll never actually have this fairness among everyone. Unless people are taken out of it. So for some people, they don't understand what decentralization even is. What is decentralization, and how exactly is Bitcoin decentralized? Because something that I've heard a lot is, as far as pushback on this is, well, somebody had to create it. So whoever that person is that created it, why can't they be the one pulling the strings?
Yeah. And so I know you've done your homework. I've actually listened to you talk about this, but there was a pseudonymous creator or group of people named Satoshi Nakamoto, and this basically unknown person or group of people created this network, and that almost makes it sound kind of even more scary, right? That
Right.
we don't even have somebody to go and arrest if they did something bad. But when you look at it, the history of computer science, especially kind of in our modern context, is about open source sharing, and this idea that you can go to GitHub and these different online places, and you can look at programs where code is written for people and shared. I mean, that's why the digital revolution has really kind of gone as far as it has, is because technologists have shared information. There's just been this culture of sharing amongst technologists. And the beautiful thing in that is, why, if you're building a program, why would you ever copy and paste somebody else's code and then put it into your program if there was a potential for them to put a backdoor in it to rob your program, right? And so what computer code is, and you could extrapolate this to the Bitcoin network, is essentially a set of rules. And anybody can read those rules, and anybody can audit it and see if there's a bug in it, or see if there's some sort of backdoor to drain funds out of it, or to give an unfair advantage to one person versus another. When you talk about open source, you're talking about an open source set of rules that says, this is what everybody's playing by, and you don't have to play on this network, or you don't have to play this game, but if you want to, here's the rules, and there you go. Like, that's it. It's set out, and it's open source, it's transparent, and it's easy to find. You can go and Google and find the Bitcoin white paper. You can go and look at the open source code. You can do all of those audits yourself, or you could ask somebody that maybe knows a little bit more about computer programming to take an audit of it as well. But it's out there for you. And the analogy I would use is, if we all wanted to sit down and play a game of Monopoly, everybody kind of has different family rules of Monopoly, right? Like, some people, if you land on go, you get $400, and some people say, no, that's not a rule, so you only get $200 when you land on go.
And you must be the Monopoly guy. Hey, thanks for the free parking.
Well, there's right and wrong ways to play Monopoly. That's why Monopoly gives you a set of rules. And if you want to play an official game of Monopoly, you play by these rules. And that's true and utter fairness when you do that. And so in a financial system, that's what we want. We want set rules that doesn't say, oh, well, this person has done more for the system, so we're going to give them an advantage, or this person has done less, so we're going to put them at a disadvantage. Everybody is free to transact openly and fairly with this system. And if you want to do it, you can do it. And here's the rules in order to interact. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how scarce Bitcoin is? Why is it so scarce?
That's a great question. And it is one of those things that, we tend to gloss over it when we first learn about Bitcoin. But it is a fundamental attribute of Bitcoin. And it's not just scarcity. I would actually add to that term, it's called absolute scarcity, meaning where gold, we would say something like gold is a scarce asset, but in the event, and you brought this up before, in the event that we discover more gold, then we can mine more gold, or even look at financial incentives. So with Bitcoin, there's only so much produced each day, and there's only so much that's going to be produced, that 21 million ever, and nobody can change that. Doesn't matter if you lend more computing power to the network, meaning you mine more or you mine less, it doesn't change that. All that does is add to and take from the security of the system. So that's a different conversation. But with gold, imagine if the price at, what is the price at, like 2,000-ish, sub 2,000 right now? Yeah, I don't check gold as often as I check my Bitcoin 30 times a day. I check my gold less frequently because a $40 move is like a huge move.
Right.
But with gold, imagine the gold price goes up to $4,000 tomorrow. There is now a financial incentive for gold miners to go out and spend vastly more resources to go find and mine more gold. And they actually know where these gold deposits are. They just choose, if you look at the diamond industry or any scarce asset industry, they pocket these things, or they don't put them in circulation, or they leave them in the ground. But as soon as the price goes up, there's going to be this correlative relationship that happens between mining more for gold and the price of gold. So there's always going to be somewhat of an equilibrium. There's always going to be some sort of suppression on the price of gold because of the fact it can be mined based on human consumption. And with Bitcoin, that option isn't there. It doesn't matter how bad people want Bitcoin more tomorrow, the price or the amount of them is always going to be 900 more per day right now. And you can't change that. So you can go out and you can spend another $1 billion on computers to mine more Bitcoin. It's not going to help you at all.
There's literally 21 million of them, and then that's it. Like, there's never going to be that next one. And so when 21 million are mined, there's not going to be that next person be able to even grab one of those. And so just understanding that concept is basic economics, that price has to go up because it's so rare, it's so worth something.
Right. And to even add on to that further too, so there's only 40 million millionaires in the world. Not every millionaire can even have an entire Bitcoin. Now that's a crazy concept to think that the ultra rich can't even have one.
Yeah. Nowadays, the ultra rich have something like a super classic car that there was only like 10 of them made back in the day or something like that. And so they get to tout that car around and say like, look, I have one and you don't. I believe that in a couple of years, it's going to be like, look, I have a full Bitcoin and you don't.
I think so as well. And I think you might even get to the point where that's going to be like the ultra rich, but you're going to have the people that I have a 1/10 of a Bitcoin, and that is going to be something to brag about. I mean, it's a wild to think about. And now we're thinking of, or anybody new to Bitcoin is thinking of Bitcoin as, whatever our price is at today, 48,000 or whatever it happens to be at. Yeah. People are looking at it through the paradigm of Bitcoin is worth 48,000, and so how could it ever be worth some 480,000 or 4.8 million? How could it ever be worth orders of magnitude greater than it is right now? Yeah. And people asking that question 3 years ago could never see it getting 48,000. If you told somebody that it'll be at 50,000 or 65,000 in 3 years, and you said that 3 years ago, people would just stop talking to you.
Yeah.
And so you would be looked at as crazy, and certainly even go 7 years beyond that, it didn't seem feasible. But when you crunch the numbers and you look at supply versus demand versus how many people and the amount of capital that's in our system and the amount of value that's in the world, I mean, you could be talking about these just absolutely extraordinary numbers because of that absolute scarcity element to it.
Yeah, it's huge. I think that scarcity alone is the reason why somebody should invest in it. But that's not the only thing that you're getting with this. And so that's why, to me, Bitcoin has always been a favorable asset or something I just wanted to learn a little bit more. So if you guys are interested in anything like that, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, things like that, don't just take our word on it. Definitely do your own research, which is why this is so cool. There's so much educational aspects to Bitcoin and just cryptocurrency in general. Look it up for yourself. Understand what the technology is, what it does, what the project is all about. And from there, there's just so many avenues and ways that you can actually go ahead and grab a little piece of it for now. But yeah, I definitely want you guys to be safe and understand everything there is to understand about cryptocurrency, because unfortunately right now it is still a time where things are volatile, things are risky, and there are cons to a lot of this stuff. And so there's just a safe way of going about it.
Absolutely.